Jai Shri Ram. A little information about Krishna Deva Raya, AD 1509 to 1530. That is what is mentioned in this book written by Robert Sewell, A Forgotten Empire. Now, this is something I heard in other places also, and I am convinced this is a distorted version of history. You see, the description given by Robert Sewell in this book, A Forgotten Empire, Vijayanagara, a contribution to the history of India by Robert Sewell, based on Portuguese chronicles. Pace and some other chronicler was also there. So he describes Krishna Deva Raya as physically strong, and he used to do a lot of physical exercise, rose early, and he used to exercise using Indian clubs and the use of a sword. He was a fine rider. He had a noble, charismatic presence. He commanded an immense armies in person and brave and statesmanlike, and all that. And Pace, I believe, writes that he was gallant and perfect in all things, and the only blot on his scutcheon, or the what he called shield, he says that this is the only blot, is that after his great success over the Mohammedan king, he grew to be haughty, very arrogant and insolent in his demands. No monarch such as Adil Shah could brook for a moment such a humiliation as was implied by a peace, the condition of which was that he should kiss Krishna Deva Raya's foot. And it was beyond all doubt this and similar contemptuous arrogance on the part of successive Hindu rulers that finally led 40 years later to the downfall of the Hindu empire. This, I think, is wrong. This is a faulty interpretation of history. And I'm happy that Krishna Deva Raya forced this rascal, the Mohammedan king Adil Shah, to kiss his foot. Because, as we know, these Mohammedan kings have been notorious for iconoclasm. Their iconoclastic fury has rendered the most of North India devoid of Hindu temples. So, the Aliya Ramaraya, who was a son-in-law of Krishna Deva Raya, lost the battle to the combined forces of the Bahmani sultans because of the treachery of two of his generals who were Muslims. These two generals were actually orphans. Ramaraya was fighting the Talikota battle at the age of 96 years. At the age of 96, he was fighting like a 30-year-old. But he was unfortunately too liberal and secular. He brought up two orphans, foundlings, Muslim kids, and raised them, and eventually gave them the position of a commander. Of the 4 divisions of his army, 2 were led by Muslims, and these are the 2 orphans who were brought up. And finally, when the final battle at Talikota took place, after which Vijayanagara was destroyed, these 2 Muslims who were brought up as orphans, fed and given such a position, they thought that jihad is more important and Islam is more important. So they defected and joined the Bahmani sultans. And finally, Ramaraya was beheaded, and his head was put on a pole for everyone to see. And then the loot and rape and murder and destruction of temples followed. And it followed for several months. This is how the Vijayanagara empire crumbled, because of trusting Muslims. It's as simple as that. That's the hard fact of history. So, Ramaraya made the biggest blunder of his life. He could have easily won the war, because if you look at the size of the army and everything else, Ramaraya would have won. But because he became too liberal and he appointed 2 of these Muslims who defected at the last minute, he not only got killed, everyone, common people were butchered, rape, murder, loot, everything followed. So this is a little bit of history. These rascals who write this history don't have the courage to speak the truth, or I think they are fake historians. Jai Shri Ram.